Hey guys, I'm John Setzler, and welcome to my man cave party deck. It's Thursday evening, about 7:30 Eastern time. Time to do another Facebook live stream. Trying to do these once a week, and tonight I just wanted to talk a little bit about cooking methods and how those methods affect us and how we can take advantage of various cooking methods in our grilling and smoking hobby. And I'm gonna try to get going here on my laptop also, where I can see what's going on with you guys as well, if I can make this work. So we're gonna talk first of all about cooking methods, and this hasn't come up for me on my laptop yet, so give me just a moment here. I'm still learning some of this tech that we're involved with here in live streaming. So here we go, it's coming up. We're going to talk about cooking methods. And one of the things I recommended when we talked about the must-have books for barbecue was Meathead's book, The Science of Barbecue and Grilling, Meathead Goldwyn. And one of the first things I came across in that book when I was reading it originally, it's up near the front of the book, I don't remember where it is exactly, but it talks about cooking methods. It doesn't specifically talk about cooking methods, it talks about how heat is transferred, which is basically your cooking methods. And there are three that we deal with pretty regularly in barbecue and grilling. We have convection. And convection is just the movement of warm air around your food. It's indirect heat. It's just air movement. You've got something blocking the radiant heat that's coming from whatever heat source, and all you have is air flowing around your food. There are two types of convective heat basically that we deal with in barbecue and grilling. There is dry air convective heat and wet air or moist air convective heat, which would be steaming. You have a combination of the two in about any situation where you're barbecuing and grilling. Your cooking chamber is going to have some amount of moisture in it. Some types of cookers have more than others. Some don't have hardly any, and some have a lot, depending on what kind of situation you have. But those things affect how your food cooks. The convective airflow, just brings warm air to the surface of your food, and it allows it to cook. I'm sorry, I've got mosquitoes out here tonight. I'm gonna have to work this problem out also. So we've got convective heat, and a lot of you probably have convection ovens in your kitchen at home. A lot of your modern ovens, and even my little toaster oven that I have, has convective heat. And basically what that's doing is running a fan inside the oven. When you have more air movement, your convective heat is more efficient at delivering heat to whatever you've got in the oven. An extreme example of convective heat are these air fryers that you see out there. There's no real difference between an air fryer and your regular convection oven, other than the fact that it's running a higher volume of air. It's blowing a more powerful fan. And what's happening there, as this air approaches your food, it cools because your food is cooler. And so therefore, the more movement of air you have, the quicker that food's going to cook in the convection environment, because the cool air is not staying in contact with your food. In our barbecues and smokers, we do a lot of convective cooking with low and slow techniques, and that's all convective heat with no direct heat and no conductive heat, which we're going to talk about also. It's a gentle cooking method, and a lot of things benefit from this gentle cooking method. We do, at the extreme end of that, we do Boston butts, briskets, and ribs, and typically we do those in what we call a low and slow environment, which is a low heat convective environment where we're not moving a whole lot of air and we're not producing a whole lot of heat. We're just letting it slow cook. And coming back to Meathead's book, one of the analogies I believe he gave in the book, how you can tell a difference is take a temperature, for instance, like 200 degrees, because you can put your oven, you can set your oven up at 200 degrees, let it heat up, let it get 200 inside the oven. You can open that oven door and stick your arm in there and hold it there for quite a while, and you're not going to burn yourself. That's conductive heat, or I'm sorry, that's convective heat. It's not delivering the heat very efficiently. It's very gentle. The same radiant heat, if you had a 200 degree infrared burner going, for instance, and held your hand right up in front of it, you would feel that heat a lot quicker and you would pull your hand away. If you had the other type of heat that we have is conductive heat, which if you had a cast iron pan that was 200 degrees and laid your hand on it, you would burn your hand severely within just a second or two, because that's the most efficient way to deliver heat, is conductive. So we're dealing with convective, radiant, and conductive. Those are the three types of delivery we have for heat in our cooking environment. Radiant heat is direct grilling. If you fire up your grill, get a hot bed of charcoal going, and set your steak on the grate over the fire, you've actually got two forms of cooking going on there. You have radiant heat, which is direct heat radiating from the source, plus you've got some conductive heat because your grill grate's hot and it's going to deliver heat as well. But a perfect example of radiant heat would be if you hung a steak flat over the burner. You've got direct heat radiating from the heat source. That's actually a combination of convective heat and radiant heat, because there still is airflow, but you have the additional heat of radiant heat, which cooks faster. That's how we cook our steaks. Anything that we cook direct, we're cooking over radiant heat. Conductive heat is a little different, because you're heating a surface, which could be a grill, it could be a cast iron griddle, it could be a cast iron pan or a soapstone, or whatever kind of flat surface you have. You are putting a lot of heat energy into that, and when you set your food on that, it makes direct contact with the heat source, and that is the most efficient way to deliver heat to your food, is conductive. It will cook the fastest conductive, depending on what kind of surface you have. If you've got a thin metal surface like a sheet metal steel, when you put your steak on there, or your burger or whatever, that conductive surface is going to deliver the heat that it has stored very quickly, and it's going to cool your burger or steak's actually going to have a cooling effect on that surface. Cast iron's a little better. Cast iron has a lot more thermal mass. It heats up and stores a lot of heat, and it can deliver heat for a longer time. It can usually, most of your cast iron cooking surfaces can deliver enough heat to cook whatever you're putting on it quickly. You don't have to worry about reheating it. The soapstone that I cook on the Kamado grill has even more thermal mass and heat delivery potential than the cast iron surfaces I have, and that's why I like cooking on that. It cooks fast, it cooks quickly, and with the conductive heat you can get as good a quality sear on something like a steak with a lower temperature. A lot of folks, when they're going to sear steaks on the grill, they like to get their grilling surface up to 700 or 800 degrees, and that works because radiant heat's not as effective at delivering heat as conductive heat. You can get the same effect in less time with a 500 degree soapstone or 500 degree cast iron griddle than you can an 800 degree radiant heat source usually. I don't have the numbers obviously, and I haven't tested this, but it's just from experience. I know that I get a quicker sear on the flat surface than I do over direct heat. I don't like to go to extreme temperatures, and one of the reasons the flat surface works for me is because I can do it at a lower temperature, and if I've put seasonings on my meat that are susceptible to scorching, I don't have to worry as much about that as I would if I put it over an 800 degree radiant heat. Salt, pepper, and garlic, granulated garlic, hold up well to extreme heat. But if you've got things in your seasoning, like if you've put thyme or rosemary or sage or any of these leaf herbs, they'll scorch, and they'll get bitter over those extreme temperatures, and it only takes a few seconds for that to happen with them. But when you drop a steak or a burger onto that flat surface, even if that flat surface is at 500 degrees, for instance, it's not going to actually be cooking 500 degrees. The meat's gonna cool it, and I also put down a little bit of ghee so it cools it even more, but the ghee helps that transfer of heat evenly, and that ghee or butter or oil or whatever a fat you might want to put down based on the temperature you're cooking helps build that beautiful caramelized crust from that contact surface. And that's just a brief rundown of our cooking methods. Another conductive method that's becoming more popular is sous vide. And when you're cooking in sous vide, you're taking your protein, or it may not be a protein for whatever the reason, whatever you might be cooking, you're vacuum sealing it in an airtight bag, and you're dropping that in a water bath, and your sous vide controller is heating that water bath to whatever your target temperature is. If you want to cook a medium rare steak, medium rare is 135 degrees, so you can heat that water bath to 135. You can drop your steak in there, and it will cook to a perfect 135 degrees. It will not overcook. You can leave it in there as long as you want. Things happen the longer you leave it in there. You don't want to leave it in there too long, but you want to leave it in there at least long enough to get it up to 135, and that varies from anywhere from a typical steak will take 75 to 120 minutes depending on the thickness of your steak. Some thicker steaks may take longer, but it's an example of a conductive method that is efficient, but it still takes a while because you're taking a piece of meat that may be 35 degrees and raising it to 125 degrees. But since your water is only 125 or 135 degrees, it takes it a little while to climb. It's not a fast process, but it is efficient, and it creates a perfect cook. And sous vide has become quite popular in the barbecue community. There's a lot of people doing it. I've experimented with it. It hasn't really caught on with me. It's something I may play with some more. I don't spend a lot of time with it. A cook I've done recently that's similar to sous vide, well, boiling is similar to sous vide. Boiling is a conductive method also, but you're cooking at 212 degrees instead, or somewhere close to that based on wherever you are. And a lot of it, we don't boil our meats typically, but it's another example of a conductive method that's more gentle than laying it on a cast iron surface. So you have that to consider. What I did a cook this week for a video where this video is coming out tomorrow for Kamado Joe. I butter poached a tri-tip and then seared it on the soapstone. Did a reverse sear technique, but butter poaching, or poaching in general, is a conductive cooking method also. It's different than sous vide in the fact that your meat's not in a vacuum sealed bag. Your meat is cooking in the fat. It's like a confit. Or in poaching, you can poach in water, but you can also poach in a fat. But technically, when you poach in a fat, it's called a confit. And the fat temperature was higher. I took some temperature readings as I did this. I put this tri-tip in a 9x13 dish, and I poured melted ghee in it to cover the tri-tip. And my cold tri-tip brought the temperature of my melted ghee down to about 90 degrees or 95 degrees, but I put it on a 225 degree grill, and it took about 90 minutes for that poach process to cook my tri-tip to an internal temperature of 125, where I pulled it off and I wrapped it in foil and then ramped the temperature up on my grill to get my soapstone hot to sear it and finish it. But the butter poaching brought another element, I believe, to this cook. In the ghee, I've got the flavor of the ghee itself, but I put garlic, I put some chopped shallots, and a nice sprig of fresh rosemary in there as well. So we added some flavor that definitely came through in the meat. You could taste it. And this video will come out tomorrow. I'm trying to produce something to give excuse me, give people an opportunity to try something different. In the steak community and in, you know, tri-tip, everybody, the reverse sear is a big thing. I'm not a fan of it, but in this particular instance, it worked very well. I could have seared that tri-tip first, but after I thought about it, I believe searing it first would have harmed the flavor opportunity that I might have gotten from the poaching. Excuse me. And you'll see the video if you watch it. I'm going to post it here on Man Cave Meals. It's going to come online as a Kamado Joe video tomorrow evening, so stay tuned for that. I'm hoping some of you guys will try this, because I believe it's worthwhile. The next steak I cook, I'm going to butter poach it. I'm not going to go to the trouble to make ghee. I made ghee from 4 pounds of butter this week to do this project, and I used almost all of it. I used 6 cups out of about 7 or 7.5 cups of ghee that I made on that one project, and it was worth it to me. But next time I'll just use regular butter. I don't know that I gained a whole lot by using ghee. So there's that. Let's see if I've got any questions popping up over here. Let's see. Darren Wilson's with us, and Darren is our resident sous vide guy. He can tell you probably everything you'd want to know about sous vide, and he's got a group on Facebook as well. Darren, you need to type your group link in there and share it with everybody. Let's see. This is a little difficult. I've got a question about the soapstone from Sean Francis. It says, John, just can't clean the soapstone. Any tricks? I cleaned my soapstone yesterday. I took it inside, put it in the sink, ran hot water over it. I have a couple of these little stainless steel scouring pads that are kind of like steel wool, but it's just a stainless steel mesh, and Dawn dishwashing liquid. It cleans them up very well. That's how I always clean my soapstone. I clean it every other time I cook on it, or every third time, because I'll clean both sides of it, then I'll flip it and cook on the clean side the next time, and then when I've got both sides gunked up, I'll take it inside and wash it. So that's how I do that. Let's see. Darren says Malcolm Reed cooked on that same Traeger grill today. I guess he's talking about my Timberline 850 here. Yeah, that Timberline's a beast. Yoder YS640 versus Kamado Joe Big Joe, same price on both. Which would Man Cave Meals pick? I'd pick both. I'm not going to pick one or the other when it comes to pellet grills or Kamado grills. They're two different beasts, and I am extremely fortunate to be able to have both of them. If you can't have both of them, you just need to pick one and go with it. I like both. I think the Kamado may have some versatility advantages over the pellet grill, but I would be extremely happy with either one. And I'm not going to get into the debate on which one of those is better, because you can go either way on that. I love the pellet grill. Let's see what else we've got here tonight. Steve Cole says, how do you space out the smoking wood chunks for a long cook? I don't worry too much about that. When I take a fist-sized chunk, I'm serious. Most of the smokes I do, I start out with one fist-sized chunk. I take my hatchet and break it into at least 4 smaller pieces, and in my firebox, I'll have the fire lit right in the middle. and I'll place those 4 wood chunks right around, or the 4 pieces of that wood chunk right around the center of where I've lit that on the top, and that's all I do. There's a whole lot of speculation about where you place your wood chunks. There's no science behind any of it. There's a lot of people do it a lot of different ways, so just try it. I can't really say that one way works better than the other. I'm minimalist when it comes to smoke. With me, you'll hear me say over and over again that less is more, and I truly believe that. I've gotten to the point where I don't use a whole lot of smoking wood, and there's a lot of cooks I do these days where I don't add any. I get enough of it from the charcoal. That's one of the things the pellet grill has done for me, is helped me realize how much I enjoy a lighter smoke profile. Smoke is a spice, and it's like any other spice. You can use too much of it, so try not to use more than you need. I know the Kamado community is spoiled on heavy smoke, because it's easy to get a lot of smoke in a Kamado grill, and it's not easy to get a lot of smoke in a pellet grill. And I talked about this last week. People that are coming from some other kind of smoker to a pellet grill, that's the first complaint they have, there's not enough smoke. And when you're comparing it to something that oversmokes a lot of things very easily, that's true. But I love the smoke profile you get, the extra light smoke profile you get from this pellet grill. It's the same kind of profile you get, but not quite as intense, that you get from a stick burner. I really enjoy that. So my cousin Judy's joined in with us. She's up in Virginia. I owe her a Man Cave Meals t-shirt, and yeah, I need to get another batch of those made, so I'm going to do that sometime soon. So if any of you who didn't get Man Cave Meals shirts that want some, we're going to do that again this summer. I got to get another batch made. Mike says, any idea why tri-tip cut seems to be hard to find in some areas? Yeah, I do, because I can't find it here either. The only reason I had a tri-tip to cook this week is because I've got a new partnership going with a company over in Tennessee and Nashville called Porter Road, PorterRoad.com. The tri-tip I cooked yesterday is beautiful. I think I posted a picture of it here before I cooked it, and maybe after. That roast sells for like $21 from that company. Check them out. That was a beautiful piece of meat, and I've never been a huge fan of tri-tip, but that may be the first tri-tip I've had that was a really great quality tri-tip, and I may be changing my mind on how much I like tri-tip after the one that I cooked for the video that you're going to see tomorrow. Yeah, it's a West Coast thing. I think when you get much east of Texas, they're hard to find. So some of you guys that are in here that live in different parts of the country, people are talking about, you know, they can walk into their local Walmart and get a tri-tip. Well, we can't do that here. I've never seen tri-tip on a grocery store shelf anywhere in North Carolina, so take that as you will. Let's see. Let me scroll back down here and see what we're going. I've had a lot of luck getting tri-tip at Publix. Will says, my Publix doesn't have tri-tip, but my Publix does have pork belly. I can get a whole pork belly at my Publix, and I believe I can get sirloin cap from my Publix also. I need to check with them on that, but I was told that I could. So, well, that's about all I've got tonight. I don't want to ramble too much longer, and once again, I appreciate everybody joining me. I'm going to try to make a weekly thing out of this because I enjoy doing it. I'm struggling a little bit coming up with ideas of things to talk about. So you guys that are with me, if there's something you'd like to hear that make a good discussion here for Facebook Live, leave it in the comments so I can come back and find that. I'm still thinking about some things where I can do live cooks. I'm gonna do some of that coming up this summer, but live cooking can get boring and it can get drawn out depending on what you're doing. I'm trying to find some short things that I can do where I can keep things moving and not have a lot of dead time during the cook. So I've got some ideas. A smash burger is always a fun thing to do because that can be a quick cook, And there's some specific things you need to know about cooking a smash burger and what it should look like. It has a specific look, and there are specific things you need to look for before you flip a smash burger. So maybe we'll do a smash burger live cook coming up here sometime soon. So appreciate you joining me. So until next time, this is John Setzler with Man Cave Meals.